Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Luke Mardigian, and you are listening to Be Insured, where we talk about business, leadership, and insurance. That way, on your worst day, when you need it the most, you will be insured. Before we get into today's topic, I want to tell you about an amazing resource we created just for our listeners called the Ultimate Commercial Insurance Roadmap. This guide breaks down the 4 major things every business owner must look out for in order to save money and ensure their business is properly protected. You can get your hands on this guide right now by heading to beinsuredonline.com. That's beinsuredonline.com. Restaurant owners, navigating the world of insurance can sometimes be daunting. What types of coverage should be included in my policy? How much coverage is enough? What gaps should I be paying attention to? That's exactly what we're digging into today, and I'm excited to be joined by my awesome co-host,
Eric Gestring, the Mardigian Agency,
and our fantastic lineup of guests.
I am Mike Mudrey, one of the owners of For Crepe Sake.
Carlos Vera with the Mardigian Agency and also owner of Cancun Mexican Grill.
So, Mike and Carlos, before we jump into the topic, I'd love for our listeners to get to know you both a little more. Carlos, can you start by giving us a little background of who you are and how long you've been in the restaurant industry?
So, I was born into the restaurant business pretty much. You know, my family has owned Mexican restaurants for 17 years now. And I mean, it's a great job to be at. But, you know, when it comes to insurance, I want to say that's the last thing you think about just because you're busy with, 20 plus employees and trying to run a business. And I've been working with Mardigian Agency for 3 years now. So I kind of have a unique aspect of, the restaurant business because I know it in and out. And now I know the background of insuring a restaurant.
Yeah, that's right. And between you and your extended family, there's 60, 80 restaurants that are owned. So when you take that and multiply, 20 employees per restaurant, you multiply that, that's a lot of people to be dealing with and a lot of, plate spinning. So I love your perspective on restaurants. Mike, can you tell our listeners a little bit about
Complete opposite. Not born into the restaurant industry. I've been in it for about a year. One restaurant, so the complete opposite. Everything's the opposite. And yeah, my wife and I bought a restaurant For Crepe Sake about a year ago, and you're absolutely right that it's one of the last things you think about. I think we talked about the acquisition process, and at the end I was like, oh, we got to take care of insurance.
Yep.
What do we need? So that's it. About a year into the restaurant industry and hoping to eventually reach where you guys are.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Carlos, since you're in that unique situation or position of being an insurance agent and also a restaurant owner, when you sit down with your clients, what are the things that you're bringing to their attention?
That it's funny that you say that, Eric, because I actually never thought about that until I got into the insurance business. Because not most of the business owners don't know the coverages that you actually need. I mean, there's been restaurants that we walk into a business, and I mean, Luke can back this up. You could just see how hard they work to build this business. And I mean, just as simple as they have, $100,000 in property, just to protect the restaurant that they work so hard for. And we're like, we're looking just dollars and dollars in and out. We're like, this restaurant needs at least $500,000 to rebuild it. But, other coverages that you don't even think about could be foodborne illness that could leave restaurants, it could shut them down literally. I mean, it's something that you struggle. I mean, I know, I don't want to say names, but a restaurant that struggled with, a lot of people getting sick, and now they are looking to sell the business because they just can't come back from that.
I think in today's age, that's one of the most real concerns for a restaurant owner.
Well, we just had a outbreak of foodborne illness last January. Yeah, we were at your wedding, Carlos, and there's the state of Michigan declared an emergency.
Oh, yeah.
And most insurance policies give you a limit. So they might give you like $25,000, $50,000, $100,000, and that's it. That's all they're going to pay. So you got 80 people sick. You better hope they're all going to take $1,000 a piece. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough coverage.
But what does Farm Bureau do?
We give you the full $1 million, $2 million, your occurrence in aggregate.
And it's funny because a lot of the times, especially for business owners, it's not something that you can even control. Like, like how they have certain, just it's the meat quality. It might not be directed to your business, but if it's kind of luck of the draw,
Well, you're contagious for 3-4 days beforehand. So you might have an employee who comes in and they just look tired, you don't really think anything of it. And then 4 days later, you find out they had something, and then now they've already sneezed on the crepes, something terrible where people get sick.
It could even be a patron coming in and being sick and touching doorknobs and then other people touching them.
Yep. So to go back to what you're saying first, Carlos, the business personal property coverage, that is definitely where we see the most people underinsured.
Oh yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about let's say you're opening a restaurant tomorrow, you're opening another Cancun, another Acapulco Mexican grill. What kind of cost are you looking at just to get that rolling? You just opened Acapulco 2 years ago. So you have some fresh numbers.
So we opened Acapulco not too long ago, and putting into the business to open it, we were close to $1 million. You're looking at, our kitchen equipment was, 200, 300,000 just from the bottom up. Everything obviously was bought new, but is something that a lot of people don't think about. There's certain instances where, you walk into a lot of restaurants that start up, they're restaurants that were already restaurants before, and they just, buy them. So they don't really know what their value the stuff has until they have to replace it. Or until it's lost, and it's like, what? Like, I have to pay $100,000 $200,000 for a stove? Yeah, so a lot of business owners don't really have that background to know how much it actually costs to replace equipment.
Yeah, the numbers start getting crazy. I remember I threw it out to some business owner, trying to remember. I don't know. We have a lot of restaurants. I threw out the number that, he had a big kitchen. It was kind of like Acapulco. It was big. I'm like, it's going to be like $200,000-$300,000 for that. And he's like, oh, there's no way. Like, well, when did you build it? 20 years ago? I'm like, well, so inflation, it's going to cost 60% more at least of what you paid for it 20 years ago. And you just don't realize that.
Yeah, no, it adds up. I know, for an instance, when we opened one of the Cancun Mexican grills, we got the building as is. They already had a kitchen, they already had a hood fan, everything. That saved us a good $200,000 just in stuff that we didn't have to pay. But if a business owner bought that, they wouldn't really know how much it would cost. Right. We know we had to jump on it just because we would save that much money.
Yeah. So Mike, I'd love to hear about your experiences too. What types of coverage did you expect or not expect?
I'll start with, I knew we needed insurance. That's about as much as I knew.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Carlos mentioned it. You when you start thinking about the risks, and they're just amplified. And this is my first time in the restaurant industry, and I've had experience in other businesses, but it's just whether it's the liability risk and the coverage of the equipment and the building and everything. So I knew we had to have general insurance. My view was, it's nothing different than an apartment or a house or anything else, but it's a lot more. And I think that the one lesson I had, the one takeaway I had, is that you really need to have somebody that can look it over with you. So we bought the building, we inherited the equipment, we inherited everything. And now starting to look at opening another location and having to build from scratch or build a kitchen from scratch, there's a lot of cost to it.
Yep.
And if you're just going in there as a restaurant owner, a typical single location restaurant owner, you just want to keep the business running. You're worried about the quality of the food and things like that, and you don't even think for a second about all the things that have to operate in the back end. So I don't even know what all the coverage is. I know that the critical thing for me was getting somebody that knew what all the coverage is, and then making sure that we had the appropriate amount of coverage. Yep. So that's my best answer.
I appreciate that you said that, because in our opinion, every business, even restaurant, is its own beast. So it has to be critically looked at and understood. And if you don't have an advocate on your side, you're going to put yourself in a bad situation. I agree.
Yeah, that for your situation, buying the restaurant was really a diversification of the types of businesses you were getting into. Food industries not as deeply impacted by things like recessions, housing bubbles, and stock markets.
Yep, potentially.
Potentially. So for you, it wasn't like you're getting into it because you're passionate. You've been watching Food Network your whole life, and you always wanted to be an Iron Chef. It was a business decision with your wife, right?
Yeah, I've made one crepe, and it was not very good. So, but I love food. I love the industry, and I think you're right. It was about getting into a different industry and an opportunity to grow and create maybe different models in different locations. So, but yeah, there's a lot of things we didn't know, and I think across the board, I mentioned this to you before. One of the lessons I learned is the importance of finding experts in different areas, and one of those is insurance. You can't be a restaurateur and also an expert in insurance unless you're Carlos.
Yeah. He's the only one I've ever met.
So, and he's bilingual, everybody. Yeah. But Carlos, carrying on with the importance of coverages for businesses and how crucial it is to have them set up correctly, what are some of the specific industry concerns for restaurant owners that come to mind immediately for you besides the equipment? Like, what about the electronic data and stuff like that?
Absolutely. That's great that you mentioned that, because it's like you said, it's something that you don't think about, but you have to have coverage for that in case anything happens. I mean, you're running carts left and right. You need to make sure that, that information is protected. And, I know Luke mentioned something about this in another show. It's so hard for businesses to, I'm sure you go out and you tell people, hey, I own this business, and you probably do it. But now it's kind of like you have a target on your back, just how they were saying it, because they see, if they know that you're a business owner, they're going to, if something does happen, they're going to come after your business. It's, it's something that you have to protect in all aspects of it.
And then the scary thing that's recently hit the news with Founders. I mean, you want to go get into that a little bit there, Luke?
Yeah, I'd love to. So Founders is actually one of my favorite brewing companies. Yeah, like Sarah and I will drive to Grand Rapids just to go to their headquarters, just to have a sandwich. The Godfather's my favorite, and have an occasional beer there. We love Founders. It's a Michigan-based company, but they found themselves in some hot water just because they were, at the very least, were perceived to have some unfair employment practices. And a lawsuit was filed, and it's going to be a large settlement from the facts that I've seen.
So is that something that insurance would cover?
Yes. Employment practices liability is something we give it to all our restaurant owners. I'd recommend at least $250,000. Some instances, especially if you have like 2 or 3 employees, it might not be as big of a deal. You really have to sit down with an agent and talk through what that process is. We have some clients who have $1 million of employment practices liability, and some of them have an umbrella on top of that, so they have $2 million. But the bottom line is it's going to cost $250,000 for you to defend a frivolous lawsuit. So somebody comes up and they say, this person did X to me, so they fired me, didn't hire me, didn't promote me, demoted me, disciplined me, any of those employment related things, and it was because of my religion, sex, race, some characteristic that was unusual. And unfortunately, in today's world,
you're always going to lose as a business owner.
Yeah, you're assumed guilty until proven innocent. Yes. And it's a civil lawsuit. This isn't a criminal lawsuit, so you don't have all the rights of.
They just want your money.
Yeah, they're just coming after cash. And we've seen an uptick in those claims over the past few years. And so just as a business owner, if there is an employment practice and it was wrong, then great. Those people are owed money, and it may not be you as the business owner. It might be your manager who made that bad decision, but you get stuck with the bill. So just protect yourself and have really good employee handbooks, have written out discipline plans, and make sure you have managers who are of like mind to avoid those types of issues.
I think the reality, you can do the best you can. The reality is it's all people. It's a people-based industry, and you put a lot of risk and a lot of reputation on the line. You mentioned some cases, foodborne illness and things like that are just one example, but a lot of your reputation is put on the line through the people that work for you. And you can only do so much as an owner, as a manager, to train them. And I think we all want to do our best, but you're kind of putting it all out there. So from a risk standpoint, I think that's significant. It's increasing.
Yes.
Today.
Yeah. Any service industry is going to be that people factor. You can't control your people. Something's going to happen at some point.
Yeah. I mean, one of the employees might just be having a really bad day, and that could just really cost you a lot of money.
That's so true.
It. You know what I mean?
Can you give an example
about it?
No, hold on. I got a good one for you, Carlos. Do you remember on Facebook you had somebody leave a poor review?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm so glad he dug into this.
So this lady came in. She wasn't happy with the service. Can you fill in the
not
gap?
service.
It wasn't the service. It was because in our restaurants we have shark tacos, and she was really defensive, and she was really upset that we supported that business. Why would you be killing sharks? Blah blah blah.
Yeah, but and that's her personal conviction.
Yes,
she can have that,
and that's fine. But I mean, she rated the overall experience of the restaurant. It was a bad comment, but it was great because she said, it's a great restaurant. I love it. I've been here, this many amount of times. Everything was great until they had this. I saw this, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny that she brought that up because, I have two sisters that are vegan, and you know how that stuff's crazy, and they all started going like, whoa, how come sharks have a right over pigs and cows and all that stuff? But that's another.
The bottom line is you can't control people posting on Facebook.
No.
And if you respond in a way that somehow is perceived as an injury to their reputation, you get sued. And if you don't have cyber liability, which we haven't even talked about yet, you have no coverage. So thanks so much for being on today's show, Mike and Carlos. Where can people connect with you?
Go ahead.
Carlos Vera, the Mardigian Agency on Instagram and Facebook.
Check us out at forcrepesake.com or on Facebook for Crepe Sake. And again, I'm Mike.
Best business name ever. As always, you can get in touch with us at the Mardigian Agency on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks, and we'll see you next time on Be Insured.